Awesome. So the session is being recorded. So those that are not part of the session will still be able to catch up with us. But otherwise, we're going to go through obviously our set list of pairs: Aussie CAD, AJ, AU, New Zealand dollar CAD, New Zealand dollar yen, and US30. And then I've got some other pairs as well that I did go through that kind of meet our criteria that maybe we'll discuss just so that we reinforce our process. So otherwise, guys, let's get into the things. So I actually didn't, on this set list of pairs that I've got here, I actually didn't change anything from last week because all of our analysis from last week is still extremely valid. So we'll just kind of just discuss it and we'll just adjust what's necessary for us to make decisions over the course of next week. So to just explain the process and to just go over things with you guys one more time, we only use 2 timeframes doing our long-term analysis. We use the daily to find a directional bias, and we use the 4-hour to find a point of interest so that we've got a higher time frame bias for next week. And obviously that doesn't mean that we can't go against that higher time frame bias. It just means that we need to adjust the risk appropriately if we do find setups that go against the higher time frame bias. So otherwise, looking at Aussie CAD, we know that we want to be bullish on a higher time frame, or at least let me just do this full screen just so that we can all see what's going on over here. Awesome. So we all know that we want to be bullish because of obviously we've got this nice descending structure on a daily or on a higher time frame, and we've broken this descending structure to the upside. But you guys know that we always add context as to what we're doing so that we're always making decisions relevant to what we see and not what we think and feel because of how structure might be looking at. We always take into account the context. So taking into account context, we know that price is at some sort of a resistance over here, some sort of a supply, because this is the last resistance that managed to break an important level of support. So we know that there's a bunch of sellers that came into the market over there. Otherwise, we see impulsive price action coming towards this resistance. But yes, we've broken structure nice and impulsively. But as price gets closer to this resistance, we basically see this nice ascending structure, which is obviously us noticing that price is decelerating as we're coming to a place where obviously we saw sellers coming into the market previously. Yes, there were buyers in control, but we see those buyers losing momentum as we're coming towards this resistance area over there. Otherwise, let me just remove all of these drawings here. Then we'll go down onto a 4-hour. So basically, based from a daily, we're at resistance. So obviously we can't be bullish at resistance. Where can we be bullish from? We have a nice momentum shift over here. We've already broken and retested this level of structure over there. So we can't be looking for any bullish structure right now because the most recent price action isn't really allowing us. And as well as on a daily, we've got some nice momentum to the downside. So we're going to follow through on this new momentum that we're seeing. So from a daily perspective, we're nice and bearish on AUDCAD. We'll come down to a 4-hour and we'll basically observe the structure to find where can we find the next trading opportunity. So otherwise on a 4-hour, we spoke about this ascending structure over here. You guys can see that we've broke multiple structures. The most important structure that we were waiting to break, if we just look at the structure, we've got buyers coming in here, sellers coming in here. And then obviously this is the last source of momentum that we see that was able to break a resistance area. So we know that if ever 4-hour is bullish and we are in buying territory, price would be above this support because this is the last area where we saw a bunch of buyers coming into the market. Finally, we see sellers giving us a new lower low. That means that whoever decided to sell from this resistance or this resistance, we don't know where, but nonetheless, whoever decided to sell from these 2 areas, there's a lot more selling volume than there is buying volume. That's why price was able to break this support, because we know that what we see on the chart is just people's decisions. If there were buyers, enough volume on these buyers, they would have kept price above this level because maybe they would have seen value at this price region or whatever the case is. Nonetheless, we can see even a change in the momentum and the way that structure looks. We see very corrective price action as we're moving to the upside. And all of a sudden, we're seeing a bunch of sell side momentum that we haven't seen in a while. So otherwise, what we want to do is we want to trade in the direction of this momentum. Let me just remove all of these drawings so it doesn't disturb us. We'll zoom back into the price action. Nonetheless, what we want to do is we want to trade where we see other people making the decisions that we want to make. I'll just take this and move this over here. That's where we want to find an opportunity to trade. Why? Because this is where we find a nice bearish engulfing. That is the momentum shift. We know for a fact that a bunch of sellers came into the market over here, obviously causing this nice momentum to break levels of structure. So that's kind of where we want to trade. So all we're going to be looking for over the course of next week, we've got a bearish, obviously bearish bias. Now, bearish point of interest, all we're waiting for is just for that corrective structure to terminate in our point of interest. And obviously at this level, that's where we're going to be looking to obviously go short. The reason why we're looking at this level to go short is obviously because we've got a nice resistance to place our stops. We can find a nice reduced risk. We're trading in the direction of our high time frame bias, which means that we've got risk to reward ratio all the way to the 90% rule. And yeah, we set up for a nice sell trading opportunity on AUDCAD. Let's go into some AJ. If you guys do have questions, obviously I'll come through and check the chats in between every pair, just so that we don't leave anyone behind. So on AJ, I'm basically not going to be doing anything, but I guess it's worth just saying why I won't be doing anything on AJ. I'm not going to go on the daily because we're not doing anything. We don't need to spend a lot of time on AJ. Otherwise, higher time frame, we've got an ascending structure. Obviously, momentum broke that structure. This was our important low that we were waiting, obviously, because we bounced from there. We see a bunch of momentum breaking this structure. So yes, we want to be sell biased, but what we can see happening over here is a whole lot of chop. So all we have here is an extreme high. We've got an extreme low. For us not to trade inside of all of this chop and be trapped, the only thing that we can do is look to trade at our extreme highs or extreme lows. Where price action is right now, because I would like to be more bearish than bullish because of obviously the overall consensus of what's going on here, bearish bias price action. We want to be bearish. But obviously what we're seeing here is we're seeing bullish bias price action on a 4 hour. We're seeing momentum. We're even seeing that nice, beautiful corrective structure. You guys can see I was already last week looking to sell inside of here. I didn't manage to get the sell, but otherwise it is what it is. But you guys can see that obviously we've got momentum to the upside and a corrective structure. So that shows us maybe price action is preparing to make another move to the upside, because that's what all of this suggests. What do we want to do on a higher time frame? We want to look to sell. So what I'm going to do out of AJ, or what I'm going to do on AJ, is I'm just going to stay out of AJ. AJ is way too confusing for me right now. Higher time frame is screaming one thing, lower time frames are screaming something completely opposing the higher time frames, and I don't want to be caught inside of this confusion. I want my trading to be as objective as possible. If I'm making a decision, it must be a clear, concise decision. If there's confusion in my decision, I should not be making decisions at all. And that's what's going on in AJ. I can't find a good directional bias in all of this nonsense that's going on here, because a lot of buyers happening inside of here, a lot of sellers happening inside here. So who's in control? I don't know. I'm just going to move on. So we'll move on to some AU. AU is going to be a little bit more interesting for us. We've got a nice, beautiful sell opportunity on on AU. So on AU, everything still stands as according to last week. And what's most important here, we've been following AU for so long. What is most important is how we always adjust with the structure. If you guys go back and look, we've never not one time bought AU. We wanted to buy AU. Obviously, we've had a bullish bias and we're back inside of the structure. But we never got an opportunity to buy AU. AU never ever fulfilled our trading objectives for a buy. But yes, inside of all of this, these small moves, we've been selling these small moves and getting money from all of these small moves. Obviously, this was the last trade. I lost this trade, and eventually last week we got another sell over here. But nonetheless, we've been adjusting structure and still finding directions to trade and good trading probabilities. What I want to point out is that it doesn't matter whether you're going to buy or whether you're going to sell, because at any point in time, people all over the world have different strategies that are giving them different pieces of information. Everyone's buying, everyone's selling. So it doesn't matter what you're going to do. What matters is when you pick a direction, you find the best place to place a trade in that direction. You want to trade where there are probabilities. Doesn't matter whether you're buying, whether you're deciding to sell. If I'm going to sell, I'm going to sell as high as I can sell, because that's where I can get the best risk to reward ratio. And also I can try and find the most reduced risk. If I want to sell, if I want to buy, I want to buy as low as possible, because that's where I can get a nice reduced risk and maybe some good risk to reward ratio. Doesn't matter which direction. So we're going to be doing the exact same thing on AU. Obviously, yes, we know maybe we want to be higher. We want to be bullish. Obviously, we've got momentum. We've got this corrective structure. Yes, we've broken back inside of the structure, but we're going to take into account context as we have been doing. We've been in a downtrend. Where are we right now? We're at resistance, the last resistance or the last point of sellers that managed to break a support. That's where we are right now. We see obviously price was decelerating as we came towards that resistance, and then we exploded, and then we decelerated again. let's delete all of this as we go down onto the 4 hour. So basically my conclusion is that I'm still 100% sell bias. I am still at resistance. I'm closer to resistance than any support that can give us a good trading, a good buy. So it makes a lot more sense for us to be sellers in this case. So otherwise we'll go down to a 4 hour, try and find a good POI for us to look for a sell. You guys can see all the times that we were looking for sells. Let's just delete all of this stuff because it's not even relevant to us. Yeah, hey, this stop loss was sad. But anyway, so yeah, basically we've got some sort of a double top structure, whatever the case is. I wouldn't call this a double top because price did close above here, whatever the case is. But nonetheless, we're looking at the context, right? We had some sort of ascending structure. It was expanding, but it was ascending. We were creating higher highs and higher lows. How we knew that there were no buyers inside here? How did we know that there were no buyers inside here? Is because we had rules. What rules? We have rules for when we are in an impulsive phase, and we have rules for when we are in a corrective phase. And one of our rules is when we see price action breaking above a level of structure, we close above, and then we see price action breaking and closing back below a level of structure. That's clearly obvious in our faces, corrective price action. That doesn't show momentum in the buyers or in the sellers, obviously, if it was a downtrend. Nonetheless, every resistance that we see here, price broke above and broke back below. So that made us still hold on. As much as we saw all of these buyers jumping into the market, we didn't change our bias last minute and just fall for the trap of being caught in the wrong direction of the market. We kept our directional bias and we waited for probabilities to give us trading opportunities. So at least we waited for structure to give us better probabilities is what I wanted to say. But otherwise, looking at the overall structure, cool. Conclusion being, we've got a whole bunch of sellers coming into the market. We managed to break a level of structure, all in well. We don't have, I guess, a good point of interest to trade inside of here. Wait, let me just do this quickly. Delete this because all of this stuff is old stuff. It's not relevant to us. Maybe we can leave that. Delete this. Cool. We've got a nice break of structure here. What we want to be seeing, or what we want to be doing, is obviously we want to follow through in the direction of this new momentum that we're seeing coming into the market. Still want to be a seller. I would still like to be a seller. Since there is no point of interest for us to find here on a 4 hour, and I still want to give you guys a nice trading opportunity, we'll jump down to the 1 hour and see if there is. Cool. On a 1 hour, we don't have any momentum shift there. Do we have one on a 15? Awesome. On a 15, we've got a nice momentum shift, or at least we've got two. First area where we can look to find selling opportunities, nice momentum shift over there. Second opportunity to find sell bias trading opportunities, nice momentum shift over there. Now we can go back up to a 4 hour, and we know obviously this is what we're going to be doing during the week when we're trading. We don't normally go that low because it's not necessary, but we still want to find a trading opportunity. Let's make this analysis relevant. Otherwise, if we do find a corrective structure right now, where are we? We're at some sort of demand or whatever the case is. Price came here impulsively, but that doesn't mean that price can't bounce impulsively. Anything can happen in the market. What we're looking for is, as long as price action still stays maybe above here, we can wait for that corrective structure, obviously, to give us a trading opportunity at one of our POIs. We know that this is the first area where we're looking to sell. If this setup fails, this is the next area where we're looking to sell. Otherwise, anything else, we're not going to fall for that trap. Otherwise, if price action manages to break this level of structure, then hopefully we'll have another momentum shift over here that obviously we'll be looking to trade in the direction of or at when price action does manage to finally break this support. But until price action breaks this support, these are the two valid areas where obviously we want to sell. Our highest sell, where we're going to add the size, where we're going to go all in if you're ill-disciplined or whatever the case is, that's this point of interest over here. This obviously, we know that price action might want to come up here, so we don't go as heavy here as we do go up high. Otherwise, we're nice and sell bias on AU. Let's go on to New Zealand dollar CAD. We'll go up to the daily. Cool. So New Zealand dollar CAD, we were bullish last week. We're still going to be bullish on New Zealand dollar CAD. Whole lot of buyers coming into the market over here. Obviously, we want to trade in the direction of this momentum. We've got a corrective structure here and momentum breaking outside of this corrective structure, and as well as some structure, some resistance on a daily. So we're nice and bullish on a daily. 4 hour. Just do this, move my charts here. 4 hour, obviously, we want to find that nice momentum shift. We found this momentum shift last, or I think it was week before last or last week when we were waiting for this expanding structure to terminate here. We found this POI on a smaller time frame. I think it's still very much maybe valid for us to look at. Otherwise, this is the next thing, guys. I'm still, yes, I'm still going to look to trade here, but obviously price is already here. Anything can happen by the time. I only will start trading maybe from 9 on Monday morning. Anything can happen from the time market opens on Sunday night and Monday at 9 o'clock. Anything can happen here. So obviously maybe price will still be here. Maybe price won't be here, whatever. We'll see if there's a setup here. If there is a setup, then we'll obviously be bullish. Hopefully maybe price will break back into this nonsense structure that didn't follow through here. Otherwise, let's adjust and accommodate for what we see on the chart. What I would suggest is that every week, delete, clear everything off the chart, because maybe you wouldn't do what I'm doing now if you still had your previous analysis on the chart, but you always want to stay relevant and include the most recent data. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add this resistance area that we see price creating over here. And we understand that maybe price action is giving us something a little bit larger. So what I'm meaning is that if price action is not here by the time we look at this on Monday, and if we can't find an entry inside of here, then we are not looking to trade anywhere at this support. I won't even take a buy from the support, double bottom, whatever the case is. It's not worth it for me. I've seen price being manipulated over here, whatever the case, I don't want to trade there. What we're going to wait for is we're going to wait for a much lower buy. Why are we waiting for a much lower buy? Maybe I should have added this context on the daily. Let's just go back up to a daily. 1 second. On a daily, obviously, we can see there's this support that we broke below. We came back, obviously, we retested this support. This support is also where we started acting nice and corrective over here. I don't know what sort of structure price was doing here, but we can see every support we broke below, we broke back above. We broke below, we broke back above. So this was corrective price action, right? Where did this corrective price action start? It started here at this resistance. All these sellers started corrective price action there. What I'm saying, long story short, break and a retest trade for the upside, for upside momentum. So obviously we have a nice momentum shift here on a daily as well. Nice, nice, nice. Stars are aligning for us in this area here. We've got a nice momentum shift here on a daily as well. We can go down on a 4-hour and we can see if we can refine that and find any bullish engulfing inside of there. If we do find a bullish engulfing, then that just increases the probabilities of us finding a trade inside of here. There is no bullish engulfing. So otherwise, let's just look to trade at the support trend line. What we'll do is we'll just respond to the price action. We see a lot of sellers in the market now, a lot of momentum. All we're going to wait for is some sort of a chart pattern. When we see price action decelerating towards an area where we want to trade, we'll obviously respond to the price action. If there's a descending structure, we'll trade at that touch. If there's a double bottom, we'll trade a risk entry or reduce risk entry. If there's a head and shoulders, the right shoulder, the break and the retest, whatever price action gives us, we know where we're going to be looking for that setup to appear. That's if price action has not given anything by 9 a.m. on Monday. We're nice and bullish price. Let's go on to New Zealand dollar yen. So New Zealand dollar yen, I'm just going to be very quick because there's nothing that I'm going to be looking for on this pair. So it's basically the same as AJ in terms of the confusion. We want to be sellers, whatever the case is. Higher time frame, we're at support. We can see that there's a range going on here. We know if there's a range, the safest thing to do is to trade at the extremes of the range, which is either our extreme high or our extreme low. Price action has got momentum. We've got a nice corrective structure here. There's a whole lot of confusion going on. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to stay out of this New Zealand dollar yen. Oh, just to mention higher time frame as well. There's been some serious chopping going on inside of here, higher time frame anyway. So let's just stay out until things become just a little bit more clear. We did sell New Zealand dollar yen. We did make a lot of money. All of this was us jumping into the sell. We'll find another opportunity like that. Let's not rush things and try and trade where there's no probability. We'll wait for those setups because in this game, patience pays. Patience does pay. Patience does pay. Otherwise, US 30. So US 30, I'll just stick to the 4-hour. No need for us to go on to the daily. Cool. I'm just going to explain. Okay, we'll just stick to the most recent price action because higher time frame would just be redundant in what we're going to say. So otherwise, there were a lot of buyers coming into US 30. A lot of people buying US 30. This is when we wanted to be the buyers and whatever the case was. Everything was nice. The market was doing good. Then we saw all of those buyers begin to decelerate. We see an expanding structure. We don't care what kind of a structure it is. What we notice about this is there is corrective price action. Deceleration, yes, we're making higher highs and higher lows, but we're doing so in a corrective manner. Nonetheless, we've got an impulsive move. Sellers show their hand, they break a level of structure, and they do so as impulsively as ever. After we see these sellers coming into the market, we have a whole bunch of corrective price action. Cool, we've got momentum to the upside, a nice bunch of sellers, but what do we see after we see all those sellers? We see a complete rejection. The same amount of buying pressure that this market had, it had an equal amount of selling pressure, if not maybe even more. I would argue that price went down a lot faster than it went up. And if we're going to argue, we can prove it. From this support to this resistance, it took us 10 days and 16 hours. From this resistance to this support, it took us 3 days. So obviously price action moved down a lot faster than moved up. So I would even argue that there are still a lot of sellers, or at least more sellers than there might be buyers. Conclusion being, I'm still inside of this impulsive move, right? After I've seen a deceleration to the upside. As long as I'm in this impulsive move, I think I'm going to want to trade in the direction of whatever potential sellers might have sold inside of here. So I've got a nice bearish directional bias on US30. I'm going to be a seller. I'm going to try and be a seller whenever selling opportunities do present themselves, because that's what the higher time frames warrant me to do. Otherwise, just looking at the most recent 4-hour structure, you guys can see we've got a beautiful ascending structure here. I love it. I love it. I love it. And you guys can see, obviously, probabilities will then start to align for us at some sort of a third touch. What we're going to be paying attention to is what structures form at this third touch to give us opportunities to sell. Ascending structures, head and shoulders, double tops, doesn't matter. As long as it warrants me to sell where I want to sell, I'm going to be looking to sell. So all we're waiting for on USDT is just that touch, and then we're looking for hopefully some downside momentum, or at least some continuation on this selling momentum over here. Nice and bearish bias on US30. But all hope is not lost. If you guys are saying indices are a long-term buy and whatever the case is, all hope is not lost. We're going to get to NASDAQ. We're going to get to NASDAQ. So otherwise, we did speak about AUDCAD. We spoke about AUDUSD. I see a text there in the chat. T is speaking as if he's reading somewhere. The Forex robot. What's good, man? You have all this info in your head. I salute. Hours, bro. Hours, man. This is my thing, man. This is my thing. Yeah, hey? Kurisani the beast. Otherwise, we spoke about US30. We spoke about AUDCAD, AU, and US30. So we're going to speak about Euro AUD, Euro USD, and AU and gold for sell buy setups. Obviously, you guys know everything that's purple, we look to sell next week. Everything that's cyan, we're looking to buy next week. Or at least that's our high time frame directional bias. So I don't even know why we have Euro. This is not an interesting pair. I don't even know why it's here. Sorry, my mistake. We'll cut that one out. Let's just go straight to Euro USD. So Euro USD, I don't like to trade Euro USD, but Euro USD seems to be giving us a setup. All and well, we'll do the things to be done and we'll trade it. Obviously, we'll wait for our entry criteria. You can think about AU when you're looking at Euro USD, but obviously things are different because they are not so very positively correlated, but they are to a degree because they both share the dollar as the quote pair. But nonetheless, yes, we want to be bearish, bullish because of this descending structure, all of this nice momentum. But obviously now we start to see maybe a little bit of corrective price action. A lot of buyers, we broke nice and impulsively, but then obviously we saw more corrective price action over here on a smaller time frame. Where are we coming towards? We're coming towards some sort of a resistance, even if for some reason I wanted to be a buyer to still hit the 90% rule. Come on, guys, we're so close to resistance. And if ever you wanted to be a buyer, your opportunity was down here. We don't look to chase the market. That's what the system that we're trading is. I am trading a corrective structure in preparation for the next momentum. So that means that once the momentum is in, it means I should have been in already. I'm not going to try and chase the momentum unless I get some sort of continuation to continue and to get into that momentum. We don't chase the market once the momentum is there. So otherwise, we've got a nice, some sort of ascending structure, expanding something. But obviously, we look at the nature of what's going on so that we know how we respond. Let me just do this because maybe I just want to isolate this smaller structure here on a 4-hour, just so that what we're talking about makes some sense. Cool. We could have been expecting maybe some sort of a third touch or whatever the case is. Yeah, but let's respond to what we see going on, which is we see corrective price action to the upside, some deceleration, enormous amount of buying pressure, but we can see that obviously market rejected those buyers. And what did we do? We made a new lower low. So obviously we can see that there's a little bit more sellers than there are buyers, and we decelerated towards the upside. So what I want to do on Euro USD is I want to take a chance at being sell bias on this structure. Let's take a chance. But otherwise, we've got our 90% rule over here. If we don't hit this 90% rule, all we're waiting for is a small corrective structure that gives us a termination inside of this area here. Obviously, our stops will be above this resistance area over there. And that should be a good enough entry for us to try and find some downside continuation. I don't want to be too aggressive with how I'm going to be looking to sell Euro USD because it's just not as close to resistance as AU. AU is a much more clearer sell. So otherwise, yeah, we'll see how things treat us. But otherwise on Euro USD, we've got a point of interest, we've got a directional bias. All we're waiting for is just for a structure to confirm our bias and then obviously give us an entry. Let's go on to gold. Yeah, so gold has been messing with me just a little bit, because if you guys remember, there was a time we were looking at just this smaller 4-hour structure over here, and we were basically waiting for a setup inside of here, which never happened. No, I think yes, we did sell somewhere. I just don't remember where we sold, but I remember we did take a short on gold here. That was the only gold trade we took this whole year so far, as much as we said we're going to be active on gold. But otherwise, we've got another trading opportunity to try and sell gold. At least this time we see the momentum that we want to see in the market to be able to find a good trading opportunity. We've got a nice break of structure, all that nice good stuff. On gold, we'll just be very simple, trade a nice break and a retest. We've got nice level of structure here. Obviously, this corrective structure started over here. So the buyers inside of here that were working price action, they came in or they started somewhere inside of here. So maybe price action won't go far above here if we do correct or whatever the case, or at least that's my assumption. Since there's a whole lot of selling pressure, we can see how impulsive price action is here. So since price action is very impulsive, we're not expecting some sort of a large something, because a lot of sellers, we're expecting maybe something might be a little bit quicker, you see. So obviously we'll just look at this most recent structure that we broke below and just look for a young break and a retest there. We'll wait for our structure to give us a nice entry. I don't have a POI here on a 4-hour that we can look to trade, but nonetheless, support will function as an area where we're looking for a termination of a structure over the course of next week. So I'm sell bias on gold. I'm waiting for that corrective structure. I like the amount of sellers that I see jumping in here. And from what I hear, people make a lot of money on gold, and I want to be part of those people. Otherwise, let's go on to the pairs that we're going to be bullish on next week. So GA, I'm going to be a little bit quicker because we've got like 7 minutes left. So I won't go up to the daily so that we waste time. But on GA, we're going to be very simple. GA, this is a height. We looked at this last week. Let me just see if, because this was the setup that we had last week. I didn't change this. Okay, let's leave GA. Let's leave GA. Not interesting. If GA is not interesting, GN won't be interesting. Cool. Let's go on to NASDAQ. I'm just trying to cut out where there aren't any where probabilities are not worth us taking. Let's just not take those risks. Those risks are not worth it. Otherwise, NASDAQ, on the other hand, I can be bullish on NASDAQ. I can be bullish on NASDAQ. NASDAQ, we've got confirmation of this descending structure, whatever the case is. You guys can see we've just broken with a lot of momentum. We've got some sort of a higher time frame double bottom structure. We've got a nice resistance that we can be looking to trade at. Whatever the case is, stars align for NASDAQ for us to try and look to buy NASDAQ. But USD is just a completely different story to NASDAQ, right? Otherwise, let's just be safe on NASDAQ. We have a nice, beautiful momentum shift here. Big bullish engulfing. We know a large amount of buyers came into the market here. We managed to break a level of structure. So obviously, that's the area where we'll find the best risk to reward ratio and the best probabilities for us to look for a long on NASDAQ. Higher time frame, All we're waiting for is for corrective structure to come and terminate where we want price action to terminate and give us that entry for a nice long. And then we'll try and find some continuation to the upside. For those that say that indices are higher time frame bullish, NASDAQ is your guy. Not US 30, not US 30. Cool. So we looked at New Zealand dollar CAD already. We spoke about that. Let's just look at AUD Swiss franc. So AUD Swiss franc, I think, is a little bit self-explanatory. Maybe let's not go up to the higher time frames, but we've got a nice descending structure over here. And then obviously we manipulated nicely below here. If you, if you guys remember our previous analysis, we didn't trade anything in this pair because it was just a little bit of chop, but we called every single thing, including this nonsense of a manipulation, including that crap. Yeah, nonetheless, we've got nice bullish momentum. We've got a nice pullback. We've got a nice break of structure. So obviously we know as long as we're inside of this momentum here on a 4 hour, this is a buyer's market, obviously. Nice impulse. We're waiting for some sort of a corrective structure. All I'm going to be doing to try and trade in the direction of these buyers over here is we've got a beautiful 4 hour nice momentum shift over there. The weird thing is that just like, which pair was it? It was AU. Just like AU, price is where we kind of want to trade, right? So anything can happen from now between Monday at 9 a.m. when we trade. So all we're going to do is wait to see if there is a structure that is forming in this area by the time we look at the market that gives us an opportunity to look for a buy. Double top, double bottom, inverse head and shoulders, descending structure, whatever we can find in this area here that gives us an opportunity to jump in with these buyers. Would I buy at this support here? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. I would still buy if price action still came down a little bit further or whatever, or maybe faked us into the buy and then was just giving us something a little bit larger. I would still buy somewhere inside of this demand here. I would. The reason why I would still buy here is because the next area where I could buy is so much low. It's literally down here at the support, and I don't think I have all of that patience. We'll wait to see. Here's where we want to trade first. Obviously, if price doesn't give us an entry over here, then we're looking to buy down low. Yes, anyone can trade in any direction at any point in time. What makes us profitable is that we trade where we see probabilities exist, and we wait for price action to give us structures to pull the trigger. We don't just buy because we're bullish or sell because we're bearish. Last pair that we're going to have a look at, last pair that we're bullish on, USD Swiss franc. So for you guys that are trading these dollar-based pairs, I left dollar-based pairs long time ago. So here we've got a little bit of criteria that needs to happen for us to be able to buy first. So yes, there's a bullish setup that is forming, but something needs to happen for us to be able to buy. So context, a lot of sellers, obviously there was momentum, but otherwise we see that momentum decelerating. Yes, maybe we didn't give a third touch, but we're going to respond to what's happening here. So a lot of sellers coming to the market. So cool. We've got the context of price decelerating, right? We've got that context of price decelerating. We've never seen inside of this deceleration, we've never seen price leaving a resistance and coming back to that resistance. No matter which resistance we can try and pull or try and find, we've never seen price come this close to any resistance before, right? So we already know that, okay, cool, there's a good amount of buyers that are coming into this market, at least more buyers than we've seen coming into this market in this entire descending structure. So there's warrant for us to have some sort of a bullish bias, but what we need to see for us to trade that bullish bias is number one, this resistance here where the last place where we saw sellers that managed to break a level of structure, we need to see price action making a new higher high, whether it's by 1 pip or whether price action breaks or whatever the case is, we want to see price action breaking this high. Once we see price action breaking that high, at that point in time, this point of interest over here becomes valid. Only and only if price action breaks this resistance do we trade at this point of interest for a buy. So all I'm waiting for is once price action breaks this resistance, I'm going to be waiting for price action to come back and terminate inside of this POI. If ever we continue with nice impulsive momentum to continue maybe to break more resistances, hopefully price will give us a new momentum shift that we can wait to try and maybe find continuation at. But otherwise, we see a deceleration. We want to trade obviously to the 90% rule of this structure. Nice and bullish bias. Yeah, that's the end, guys. That's the end. Zoom is saying that we have less than 1 minute. We're 100% done. I see Mandla was saying, hi everyone, there's no sound for me. I think it was just you, man. I think it was just you. But otherwise, I think Zoom is going to cut us off. Thanks so much, guys, for being part of the session. If you guys were late, I will upload this on YouTube so that you guys can catch up. Otherwise, let there be peace in the streets. Let our brothers and sisters be safe.